This is unfortunate. But let me minimize this. Can I minimize this? There we go. Okay. So for my class, if your design is approaching a similar like solution to this is what I would think a perfect solution would be. And although in real life there really is no right or wrong in design, but for me, this kind of setup, even just with the massing, the basement, and the spatial planning of the floors, would be, I think, closer to like 1995. So if you have a setup like this, your grade will be 90 to 95. However, if your setup is a little bit different, like for example, you didn't take account Mindanao, the park, we'll just call this the Ayala Park. Let's call this park. Open park. And park over here. So if your design did not really take into consideration the open park, which I didn't say explicitly, because I need to give you guys some room to explore the design yourselves, study the design yourselves, etc., etc. So I can't give you all the answers. But if you found this in your own way, then that means you have like a good app, you research well, you have a good idea of site planning, and then and now I'm telling you, so you know, in the feature plate, you will need to consider like all the spaces on your site. So most of you already knew about the enclosure, making sure the building sort of mirrors or is aligned with the Ayala FGU Center, because I told you so. So you see my problem here, I can't keep telling you what to do. All I can do is guide you, so I can't give you the full answers. Anyway, if you have good spatial planning, which I think this will be 70% of your grade. So most of you who did good spatial planning, you already get 70%. And good site analysis will be the additional 30%. So if you have this kind of setup, good spatial planning would mean that your parking area is on the west side. This is west side, FGU over here. And why is the parking ramp along the FGU side? Again, it's to make room for the park on the eastern side. So if you have your parking area here, already you're limiting that access to the park. So again, consideration of the park. Most of the time we were talking about the FGU, because for me, that was like the bigger issue. If your building only considered itself without looking at FGU, and then that will make a totally bad design. If it only considered the park, it will make it better, but I think FGU and enclosure is, for me, a bigger issue. That's why I really went out of my way and just told you that. Okay. Spatial planning, we'll review it. I wish we had more time to talk about it. So as long as your hallways make sense, I've given you some links to some books. It's in the Facebook page over here. Where is it? Reference for books that will help you with your design. And then if you get in here, let's see how many people are in here. Loading. Only 2 people have come, have like joined this group. There's several books in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm also adding more law books like Philippine building laws, which you can access through this Google Drive link. The only question I want you guys to check is if you can download the books, because I think there's a weird thing in Google Drive where you can only view it but can't download it. So for those who are already in here, please let me know. Okay, next. Other issues, retail could be anywhere, either on the northern or the southern side of the site. It could be all on the southern side or all on the northern side. But I think much better for retail would be preference, and then just type it in, preference for southern side. Why should it be good on the southern side? Why is there a preference on the southern side? Because Ayala Terraces is on this side. Okay, so already people are going to Ayala to buy stuff. And then if you put your retail in front of where people are like going to Ayala or like leaving Ayala, they might be more inclined to visit a retail space than a bank space or something like that. That's my reasoning anyway. coming from, if you put the retail on the northern side, it still works, but it seems kind of out of place, especially when FGU over here, it's all bank. And then over here, there's a park, and seems kind of weaker. So for me anyway, in my class, I have a preference for having the retail space on the southern side. And the reason why my bank is on the western side is mostly because of the open park over here. This is more free-flowing, more public, and the western side is more private. For me, that translates to a more safe space. And a bank is quieter and less public. That's why I put it on the western side. And of course, that follows through in my upper floors. And I opted for a centralized, what they call this, elevator and fire exit setup. So it's a lot easier. So you don't have to create multiple staircases. And then over here on the upper floors, I changed my initial design. This is why we have schematic and preliminary, because design always changes the more we work on it. And then I would probably have changed my office spaces, instead of having it on the eastern side, to the western side. Again, that's mostly because of the open park here. So there's more views to see, versus if I put it here on the western side, they're just viewing the Ayala FGU Center. So not much views and not much natural ventilation and lighting, even with the actually there's more natural ventilation and lighting if we move it here, but I think views are higher priority, at least for my for how I would design the project. And then we'll still have about 2 meters here, and then FGU is also set back for 2 meters, so that's a decent amount of setback for ventilation and lighting. Plus, with this setup, you can have a view to the park over here. You can have this all glass. And then maybe when the workers are like leaving, or like, I'll probably need some public toilets somewhere around here. Public toilets somewhere around here. So when they're going for their bathroom breaks, they like see the park and maybe like have a brief sort of respite or like break from all of the cubicle life, the concreteness of it all. So I think this setup is, for me, the best setup for spatial planning and massing of your building. And then finally, with regards to the facade, as long as it doesn't directly imitate 70s architecture, as I discussed earlier, with the very repetitive and monotonous, let's see, where's the design? Okay. USC documents, desktop USC documents, 3100. I think it's outside. Okay. As long as it doesn't directly mimic the modernism movement, or as long as it's different from what has been done before, as long as your facade is not a monotonous repetition of louvers and very kind of monolithic modernism design, you will also get a good grade for that. So basically, if your design is just one pattern like that for the whole facade of the building, you won't get such a good grade for aesthetics. But if you try to like play around with it, which some of you or a lot of you in my class have done, like different pattern over here, a different pattern over here, different pattern over here, generous, what do you call this, eaves. And I think one design had the very interesting, like angled pillars on the ground floor. Then you would have a good grade for your aesthetics and form. So I think that's basically it. So this is the function. It's good spatial planning, and the form. It makes sense. It's new. It's not copying, or like it can reference, but not wholesale copying what was done in the 70s. So not something like this, but more, what do you call this? More something like that, like dynamic, changing, unrepetitive patterns for the exterior, something like that, which I think a lot of you have done. Anyway, I'll stop the recording here. And now you will have hopefully some kind of idea